So while we're figuring out, they should be able. I think they should see. They can still hear you from my phone. So my first of all, thank you for accepting the request to come on live with us. Um, so my first question to you is, what made you go into education?
Great question. So I came from a family. I come from a family full of educators. My great grandmother was an educator. My grandma and also my mother worked in early childhood. And so entering college, I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. So it was two choices: either become a lawyer or a teacher. I graduated from Benedict College, and Benedict College has an excellent education program. So that's how I began being involved in education.
Hmm.
Just following behind family. I have a cousin who was also a superintendent too, as well, back in South Carolina. So yeah, just family history of full of educators, and I just want this follow their path too as well.
Okay, it's so funny because it's kind of like my story, and most people ask me when I'm interviewing what made me go into childcare, and I basically have the same background. Like my mom owned her own childcare center, so forth and so on. So it just became second nature, and I wanted to be my second option. Also, I remember one time I told my mom, I said, "Mom, I want to be a judge." She said, "You're too biased. It wouldn't work." So I so I decided not to. I decided not to go that route.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely get that. My next question for you is, um, why kindergarten? Why that age group? And what age group do you teach now?
So kindergarten definitely just fell on my lap. I again graduating, um, booked my first job, and it was supposed to be I was supposed to be a second grade teacher at first. But then I got the call last minute. They said they was going to switch me to first grade.
Hmm.
Um, Getting there, getting the class set up, and all these amazing things. You know, it's my first time teaching. I'm super excited. Then the principal walks in and say, "Hey, Mr. Alton, do you mind switching over to kindergarten?" And so that's how kindergarten kind of fell in my lap. From there on, I did 4 years teaching kindergarten. I actually loved it. Wouldn't change it for the world. Enjoyed the whole experience. So that's how I ended up with kindergarten.
And what grade do you teach now?
Now I teach sixth grade. So I teach sixth grade writing and also social studies.
Wow, that's a big jump. What? So, being that you were with such a young age group, how was the transition? Was it a difficult transition going from kindergarten to sixth grade?
Yeah, so the transition is still difficult for me. The curriculum, of course, is different.
On the Facebook Live, is there a green button? Do you see a green button on the Facebook Live for you to join?
The green button on the Facebook Live.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on just a second. Let me see.
Because I tried the right quick. You can.
Let's see. Oh, let me go back. To touch buttons. Uh, yeah.
You see it?
Okay, so you said green button
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook Live. Can you invite me?
So I was told to scroll down and right click the name, but when I right click the name, I don't have an invite button.
Because it should be an invite popping up. Yeah, it's not an option.
Okay, so yes, the transition from kindergarten to sixth grade. How was that for you?
Yeah, so I'm still getting used to the transition now. Obviously, the curriculum is very different. You have the kids who are much older, very independent too, as well, than kindergartners. Um, I think what I miss most is the kindergartners eager to learn. And they're fully trying to develop exactly who they are.
Mhm.
Where you have sixth graders who, kind of know exactly who they are as an individual. And you have that blockage sometimes um, with that connection. So just with kindergartners alone, they're just full of eagerness, full of life, eager to learn too as well. So that's something that I miss. I was just telling a friend of mine that I wish I could go back to kindergarten sometimes. But yeah, the transition right now, I'm still going through the transition,
Mhm.
coming from the kindergarten all the way up to sixth grade.
Okay. So there are times when you want to go back and teach kindergarten.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
So there are times when you want to go back and teach kindergarten.
Yeah, there are times where I'm like, should I? Did I make the right choice? I miss my kindergartners, especially during COVID. My last group of kindergartners, it was kind of cut short. So
Mm-hmm.
they necessarily didn't have the graduation. I didn't get to cry during the graduation like I normally do. It's time for them to move on up to first grade. Um, so that's what I just was just kind of reflecting and was like, man, like I didn't get a chance to watch my babies
Mm-hmm.
graduate. So yeah.
Okay. Um, so when you were in kindergarten, what were some things that when the kids came into your classroom that you expected them to know, like you felt that they should know this entering the classroom?
Gotcha. So I would say my first year entering inside the classroom, I had full expectation. I mean, you get all these materials and all of this knowledge in college, and as soon as you graduate and after you do your student teaching and all those other things, you're walking into it like, all right, cool, like this is what they're supposed to know. To where I had my first group, and I mean, it seemed like I was starting from ground zero.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say having expectations you necessarily cannot have. There's some kids who did enter into the early childhood or the early development world, and there's some kids who who haven't, who just starting out with kindergarten, depending on exactly like their location where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would say something that I expected them to learn was, something simple as pencil grill,
Mm-hmm.
something simple as their colors, their ABCs, counting to 10, coloring is out of the line too as well. That was something I expected them to learn. All that just blew out the window my first year. So after that, I was like, no, I cannot have any more expectations. So it's literally starting from the ground, especially that first 2 weeks, is always starting from the ground for me. Coming from like their small motor skills, large motor skills too as well. Coloring, what are the colors? How to color inside the line, like simple things in that nature as well.
So for me, because I teach pre-K, and it's funny because I was just talking to my mom about this as well when I was thinking about questions. And before I say what I want to say, I want to ask you: do you think that pre-K is important? Do you think that parents should enroll their children or child in pre-K?
Listen, pre-K is super important. You have to look at early childhood education. Okay, like so, just say for instance, you're building a house.
Mm-hmm.
Before you build that house, you're digging that ground. So that's how early childhood is. You're digging that ground. So about time to get to kindergarten, we're building on that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the ground that's being dug, and then here we are as kindergarten teachers. We're building that foundation. After that foundation is built, they enter into first grade. That's more of the house being built. Second grade, more of the house being built. So we're necessarily giving them the tools to build their own house and the knowledge to build their own house. So pre-K, preschool, it's super important when it comes to early childhood.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and even for me now, because most times in the childcare setting they have curriculums and you have to go by that curriculum, and once they get to pre-K, even for me, like I expect them when they come in my classroom to know how to sit down, to know how to raise their hand, to know their colors, to know their, to be able to identify their letters, as opposed to just being able to sing the song.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate truth of that is that they don't know that.
Yeah.
So in time, the time where we're supposed to be spending, as you said, I agree, building on that foundation, it's like we're going back to
Yeah.
actually lay the foundation, because it was not laid before they got to us. um
Mm-hmm.
and I find myself, and I think it comes along with, um sometimes, even though you have a curriculum, you have to step outside of that box. You have to go outside of your curriculum and really teach children, right? Because although your curriculum may state that you're supposed to sing this song, or whatever it may be, you have to make sure that the kids don't only they know it past the song.
Yeah.
Know that they know their ABCs past the song. Like if you say the letter D, do they know that the next whatever letter is next is next? Do they know that?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they don't know it. So
But I will also say, to piggyback with you, it takes a lot of parent involvement too as well in a child's life. Um, the child spends about 8 hours with the teacher.
mhm,
After that, they have their parents or their guardian who is supposed to be there to add on, exactly what early childhood teachers or kindergarten teachers expounded on.
mhm.
So I would say also just bridging that gap between, involving the parents and also the teachers too as well. So yeah, I definitely agree with you.
And that was another one of my questions. Do you think that parent involvement is important, um, in that in the child's stages of early childhood education, or in kindergarten, or in school, and as a whole? Do you think that parent involvement is important?
Yes, parent involvement is definitely important when it comes to um, a child. Period. Um, you statistically, um, you have a better result when it comes to early childhood and when it comes to children. Period. In school. Again, students only spend a certain amount of hours with us. And then after that, they're going home. So if they're just going home and not going over, our parents not asking the question like, hey, what did you learn today? Or, hey, how was school today? Having that conversation between you and your child, or just those kind of things too as well, or just basically doing the homework or just doing the practice. Is some sense of involvement. If you're not doing that, then the child would not take education as serious
Mhm.
at home. Like it would just be like all right, cool. I'm just going to take education serious at school, but when I get at home, it's just all like on my tablet or I'm watching TV. Nowadays, kids are just sitting there and just watching YouTube all day long. So that's something new to me too as well. Because as a kid, I wasn't watching YouTube all day long. But yeah, parent involvement is super important when it comes to education.
Yeah, I was having another conversation with my mom. It's if you, most people haven't known, she's like my mom slash mentor. Um, but I told her that I commend her, because when I'm teaching pre-K, my number one goal above all is to make sure that the child is emotionally ready for
Yeah,
kindergarten, right? Because I understand that teachers don't have time to say, hey, stop that crying, or the tattle and twin, all day long, because kindergarten, you're actually getting a grade for that. You have
yeah,
officially entered, school where you
yeah,
can you can fail kindergarten. So I understand that the teacher does not have time for that. But I told her that I commended her because she was a parent. Like, it wasn't, oh, the teacher should have taught you this. No, she made sure that when you got home, if you did not know it, she had tools in place for us to know it. So
yeah,
therefore, if we didn't know it, it wasn't, oh, we didn't learn it, or the teacher didn't provide this, that, and the third. She really, really made sure that we had what we needed in order to be successful in
yes,
school. And I know that is that I'm not going to say that it does not exist, but it's so rare nowadays. It's
yeah,
so rare for parents to do that. They want you to get all your homework done in after school. They don't want to go home and help you. They want after school to feed you. That way, when they get home, they don't have to do much. And
yeah,
and I posed the question like, well, when do you have time to be a parent? because
Yeah.
most of the times when they leave school, they find them after school program. So that means that
Mm-hmm.
that after school program is over. Once the after
Yeah.
school program is over, it's time for you to eat and then go home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just when do you have time to be a parent? You know, because children need that. They need
Yeah.
that interaction. They need that support, like you said, to let them know that school is important.
Yeah.
I had one child in my very first year of teaching, and she shared with me how the teacher was reacting to her child, and she said it made her mad because she knew that, like you said, this was the foundation, and if she didn't
Yeah.
make it fun for him in the beginning, that he would not like it later on. So she
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure that her child was enjoying it in the beginning, you know.
Yeah.
And then on the contrary to that, and this is a good question that you can ask at your answer. There was one parent at the learning center that I was at. We give homework, and another a parent shared that she did not want her child to have homework because she felt that it would make him resented later.
Mm.
So what is your take on that? Do you think that giving homework early makes it a dislike in the latter years of a child's education?
Yeah. So I would say it depends. Well, I would say it all depends on the verbiage. So for my class, especially when I was teaching kindergarten, I did not necessarily say this was homework. I changed the verbiage as this is a take home practice. You know, this is
Mm.
a practice. So that way you can continue to grow your brain, or you can continue to, sell in class. Um, so with that, and getting them super excited about what practice is, because again, after I do I do, we do, now you do. It's like, hey, this is practice.
Oh,
Again,
explain that. That sounds interesting. I do, we do, and now you do. Explain that. What does that
yes,
mean for you in
yes.
your
So
class?
I do is I'm going to show you the example. I'm going to model it myself. So we are doing math. If we're saying a part and a part equals a whole, I'm going to model it first. So I say 2 plus 2 equals 4. I modeled it. Now we do, 2 plus 2 equals what? They will repeat 4, or we do another math problem. And then we go, or I'll go and I'll release them. Hey, now you practice a part and a part equals a whole. So that's the I do, we do, and you do.
It's interesting. I like
During
that.
that time, we're practicing. I'm getting them super excited about what practice looks like. Probably playing some music. Just getting them super hype about the practice. So that way they can convert it. When I say, hey, this is a take home practice, they are doing the same thing possibly, at home. I
Mm-hmm.
had one parent that said, hey, every single time she just wants to listen to Brown Skin Girl for the longest. Every single time she wants to listen to Brown Skin Girl during the practice. Like, and just getting them super excited that way. So I think it always depends on the verbiage. We look at homework and we immediately like, homework, or we look at testing and we say, here we go, we have to do an assessment. But if we change the verbiage, we get them super excited about what it is, then you will probably have, a percentage of your students who doesn't mind homework, or even parents is, basically saying like, wow, this is what my child doing for homework, she or he is getting super excited about it.
Yeah, and Miss Mobley said it's a balance. Good grades are not the only indicator for
Mm-hmm.
success. Children must be balanced emotionally and academically. It takes a village. The guided practice and independent practice. I agree with that, and I love that. I do, we do, I do, you do, we do. I love that. Um, my next question for you is that, so we know that we're now in this school is virtual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how would you recommend a parent to balance the screen time for their children, being that they are spending so much time in front of a computer? How would you recommend that they balance that once that time is over?
Just straight up cutoff time. As soon as class is over, computer goes down, our tablet goes down. Let's go outside. Let's take a walk. Let's exercise. Let's spend time with each other too as well. I wouldn't even recommend any TV time too as well, or no cell phone time, because nowadays kids have cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
So just a straight cut off, because again you need that balance. You want that social connection. And nowadays, we're teaching our students not to have that social connection with other people or other human beings. Like, just for example, you'll go to a school and you'll see most of the students face down on cell phones, or you're walking in the grocery store. I mean, just face down on with cell phones. It is because we just having that disconnect. A child in that early stage needs to learn how to be socially connected with other human beings. And it becomes an issue if at the computer is TV.
Mm-hmm.
At the TV is the tablet. Or at the tablet, they even got to put on TV for them to even go to bed. What that needs to be a cutoff time too as well. So it's just all about just cutting it off. Sorry about that. On technology.
Okay, I agree. Because being that, and especially being that now they are in front of the computer for so many times a day, that
Yeah.
I feel that there's no need for it afterwards. Like you
Yes.
need, this is time for you to really, go over what they learn, make it fun
Mhm.
from that point. And to piggyback off what you said, being that the learning is in the home now, you get a chance to see what your child is learning, right? So you're
Exactly.
now able to take it a step further. Yeah, the teacher introduced it on the computer, but now you can make it fun in your home for your child to learn. If they're learning if they're learning counting, you can now, let's go outside and play hopscotch, with counting or something like that. This is the time where we can really take it above and beyond, because the number one thing that I find difficult, or that parents don't do, is that they don't know how their child learns. And
Yes.
and that is important, because we can't say that, oh, you're supposed to know this, if they don't know it. Although I do not agree with uh, teaching everything through songs, there are some kids who actually learn that way through song.
Yeah.
So therefore, I know that I have to cater to that child.
Yeah.
But I always go back once I see that they've learned it through song, and make sure they know it without the song.
Yeah.
But that this is really a time for you to be a parent, because the truth is that it won't be like this always, and you have
Exactly.
to make sure that your child is ready to go back into the actual school setting. And with that being said, and you can speak on your sixth graders or whomever else, because I have is people on the Facebook Live that don't have kindergartners. But what are some things that you would tell a parent to work on while they're home with their child, so they can be prepared when they go back to school?
So my advice when it comes to kindergartners um, will be having that connection, having that relationship. Again, we discussed about technology and the cutoff time, and just going outside, and teaching them different things as you're walking, or as you're walking your dog, or just those kind of things. There, it's all about that human connection. Again, a child's mind is developing. Every single day that child's mind is developing. So if we're putting bad things into that child's mind, of course, what do we expect? Um, you do have those kids who are very technology driven. Um, so again, it's that break. Like, hey, at this time right here, we just gotta close it. When it comes to, I would say, older kids, again, having that connection. As soon as you get in the car, as soon as you pick your student up, the first thing we're doing as parents is we're on our cell phones ourselves. So it's not a conversation that is being held inside of the car. That is, again, that's being a parent. Um, Asking your kid, hey, how was your day? What can you do better? Or, how was the test that you took? Or, hey, I see on your syllabus that you did this. Were you able to do it? Just having those conversations too as well. You will get a lot out of your kid about how they feel, what happened during that day, just by talking, just by having that human connection. And again, using your story too as well. Like, hey, in school, I did the same thing. I was very talkative, but I had to make sure I got my work done and all these other things too as well in order for me to do, such and such, whatever example that you're going to use. So it's just all about that human connection and knowing when to place your cell phone down and to actually be a parent.
Hmm, that's good. That's good. When you were teaching kindergarten, what are some things, and I would like for Miss Mobley to comment on this as well, because she teaches kindergarten. What are some things that you wanted your children to know when they were leaving? What are some things that you just knew that I have to teach this, I have to make sure that they got it before they go to first grade? What are some things?
So some things that kindergartners must know before is basically words. Their sight words is something that is super important. Vocabulary too as well, phonics skills, sounding sounds, and all those other things too as well. It is super important for a kindergarten to move on. As well as reaching certain objectives and standards that is in place for that child to move on. Each state is different, and each
Mm-hmm.
school is also different too as well. But the main thing is knowing patterns, knowing shapes, knowing their colors. Handwriting skills is also super important too as well. Knowing how to grip a pencil, like how we discussed before, gripping is super important.
Oh
Um,
yes,
yeah, because a
yes,
lot of kids, I mean, they're still holding pens and pencils like
yeah.
this, and you're trying to help their hands so they can do it. But again, pencil grip is also super important. I had a lot of drawbacks because I used to grade my kindergartners based upon realistic colors and colors out the lines. They cannot hand me a piece of paper and it's all outside the line. I can scribble it. I was like, nope, try it again. Or no, is a person actually purple? It like it's that I would say there's a disconnect between early childhood and kindergarten because early childhood we're taught, hey, especially creative curriculum. If you want to color a person purple, then
You
by
color it
all means
purple, if
color.
that's what you mean.
But as soon as they get to us, it's like nobody's purple. Use a realistic color. So those are the things that before they move on. Those foundational skills is super important so they can be able to build upon that.
Yeah, that's good, and I think, and that's why I agree with you that that pre-K is so important, because if you are teaching those things the way they should be taught in pre-K, kindergarten is a breeze for the teacher. Like they can really help your child excel, right? You don't, because you're not going back playing catch up.
Yeah.
Even today, I started doing writing for them to start
Yeah.
writing their letters, and you're right. Pencil holding was my big hang up today, because they're holding it like this, or they're holding it like this, and you're trying to get them to, like, no, that's not how you do it, and it is hard. And I think that that goes a lot with the big fat pencils. I
Yeah.
would prefer that they would go ahead and use the normal size pencil, because
Exactly.
that's what they're going to be using later on. But I understand that it's better for the grip, for them to understand it. And it says, so Miss Mobley said, of course we go by the GSE, but it really depends on the child. I stress phonics and phonetic awareness.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I'm really big on that. I'm really big on
Yeah.
that, especially with today, where a lot of parents they don't acknowledge that there's an issue. And let me elaborate on that. As far as like speech impediments and things like that, because that parent knows what their child is saying, they think that it's okay. When the
Yeah.
actuality is that they're not saying that the right way. They're not,
Yeah.
they're not saying that letter the right way.
Yeah.
So I'm big on that also. I am also big on for I'm speaking from the pre-K standpoint, getting them ready for kindergarten. I am also big on sharing. Um,
Yeah.
I like for them to resolve conflict themselves.
Yeah.
I tell my students, you can tell Mr. Clark, but what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you have to tell them that you did not like it. Because if
Exactly.
I tell them I don't like it, they know that Mr. Clark doesn't like it. But you have to tell them that you don't like it. And
Yeah.
that established that independence, and to let them know. And I think that combats bullying also later on. If you're able to voice your opinion, because, and I tell them all the time, I understand that you're upset, but let's talk about what just happened, right? If he did something, if he or she did something that you did not like, you have to let them know that you did not like it. But if
Exactly.
you're crying, that doesn't let them know that you don't like it. You actually gave them what they wanted. You have to tell them
Exactly.
you have to tell them that you didn't like
Yeah.
it. Um, and I think that's very important. Also, is to hold conversations with them basically as if they're an adult because
Yeah.
they understand it. If we can talk about everything else in front of them, we definitely can hold conversations
Yeah.
about what's going on in their normal day little lives
Yeah.
with them. It's
But
very
I would
important.
say, like, we definitely have to be careful of what they're apologizing for. Again, at that
That's a
age,
good question.
John can hit Becky, but then 2 minutes later they're back friends,
Perfectly
you know?
fine.
Or like John doesn't understand exactly what he's apologizing for. You know, it's just like I didn't really do anything because again, you know that mind is growing. So with my kindergartners, I give them the verbiage or the language to use. Like as you stated, hey, I don't like when you hit me. You know, they handling their issues on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Or I hate when you do this. It makes me feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why our boarding meetings was super important. You know, because we're talking about fitness, we're talking about exactly what's going on around the world. When COVID first happened, we was having those conversations. They was basically stating, you know, how they felt and what it meant to them too as well. And then me helping them using the verbiage that needs to be used before they come and tell me. Usually, they're going to handle issues themselves. You know, you will hear out loud, I don't like that, you know, or when you hit me, it makes me feel this way. I mean, loud and proud too, as well. You have the other students like, okay, I'm sorry. You know, they're apologizing on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So, as adults, especially when it comes to pre-Kers and kindergartens, we have to be careful forcing kids to apologize for something that they do not understand exactly what they did. You know, pull them to a side, not embarrassing them in front of a lot of students too, as well using that soft voice and saying like, hey, you know, when you hit Becky, it probably made her feel this way. You know, how do you think about that? Like, what do you think you should do? I think I should give her a flower. All right, cool. We'll pull it out from the ground and go ahead and give her the flower. You know, whatever consequence that you know you made up, exactly. You know, go ahead and do it. So yeah, I definitely agree with you when it
Yeah.
comes to giving them the language to
Absolutely.
use.
And I never make them say sorry because the truth of the matter
Exactly.
is they meant to do it
Exactly.
when they did it. So you just have to
Yeah.
teach them that you're not supposed to do it. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
They did not they're not sorry. They meant to do
Yeah.
it.
They're not. You know, they're like, okay, I'm gonna do it again. You
Right, right.
know.
They're
You
not
know.
sorry. Miss Tamara said, okay, what if the parent does not speak correct grammar? Um, That is a problem in most households that parents or their families do not speak correct grammar. I love to make it personal and I'm gonna speak for myself. Um that is something that I try to combat with my family because
Yeah.
we have a lot of young kids in our family. So I try to help them understand that they are listening to you. You
Yeah.
have to, and my family would tell you when they say something wrong, I immediately correct them because
Yeah.
I know that we have young kids around us that are actually listening to what we're saying, right? So it's all about. First, let me say this: you can't expect something from someone that they don't know. That's why the saying is that when you know better, you do better. So oftentimes, the family does not know that it's correct because that's how they've been speaking. That's what they know. It's correct to them.
Yeah.
So we can't. It's kind of hard to combat that when it is embedded in someone. That's just
Yeah.
who they are.
And again, we can only do what we can. You
Right.
know, again, they have already picked up certain skills before they come to school.
Uh huh.
Skills that naturally just happen, as in language. Language naturally happens because they learn. You know, they learn it from the household. Um, so again, we can't necessarily beat ourselves up when they aren't speaking correct
Mm-hmm.
grammar. The only thing we can do is keep correcting them, and it's all about repetition. It's all about you know not giving
Absolutely.
up. So if they are, speaking incorrectly, constantly correct them. Don't get aggravated about it. It's going to take some time. But again, we can only do what we can in school because we only get them for 8 hours. And then after that, they're
You
back
know,
home
right.
speaking the urban dictionary.
Right, that perfect. And Miss Mobley said the same thing. She was speaking about how African Americans, how we have our own ebonics
Yeah,
basically, and that we
yeah.
have to meet people where they are. And it's absolutely true. We just that's just the reality of it. We have to meet people where they are, and that's why parents have to be so instrumental in their children's education because
Yeah.
you should always want more for your child or your children. You should always want more, no matter where you come from or what you do. You should always want more. Once again, I go back to my own mom. She always pushed us. And she wasn't. And when I say push us, she wasn't like my mom never told me that I had to go to college. She never said that to me. She said, "You will bring me a high school diploma. After
Yes.
that, you decide what you want to do." She never forced that on me. It was just something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do that. I wanted it for myself. I wanted that behind my name. So I did that. So it's all about pushing, breaking those generational barriers that we have so that we can be articulate and we can succeed in the world. And
Exactly.
that's just the reality of it. And that's why I host these lives like this, and it is simply to empower people,
Yeah.
because we have to know. And when I ask the question, what does anyone have any questions as far as it pertains to their kindergartner and their home being in their virtual learning. And no, well, I'm not gonna say no one, because on Instagram I did have a lady to ask a question, but really no one really responded,
Yeah.
and it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. It just it bothered me for the children's aspect, right?
Yeah.
Because I know that there's something that you don't understand as a parent, right? And it's
Yes.
okay. It's okay to ask for help. We're all here to help. Like Miss Mobley said, it takes a village. It really does take a village. To raise children. And Miss Kathy said, as time progresses, they will learn. Just like, yeah, that's absolutely correct. They will learn over
Exactly.
time. They will
Exactly.
learn.
And again, we shouldn't have the expectation, or we shouldn't rush them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to gradually learn it. And I think too as well, we're so quick to either diagnose them when they have any, grasp the concept or whatever, or give up. Again, they're going to grab those materials. Some are slower than others.
Mm-hmm.
That just happens. I was a slow learner, because in the old school days, a teacher was just up there on the board. We didn't have the ability to like fill the paper, or
Mm-hmm.
or fill the, like, I'll use this as an example, like just talking about a red apple. If I'm over here as a teacher just saying, hey, we're gonna discuss what a red apple is, and I've never seen a red apple, and you just move on. Of course, I didn't grasp the material.
Mm-hmm.
But if you show me a picture of the red apple, I'm feeling the red apple, and I mean, I'm making connections like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I see that, red is also on stop signs. I see that, red is something that I had colored too as well. I'm making those connections. Um, that gives that child room to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and not just showing them the red apple, or just talking about the red apple, and I don't understand exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How do you expect that child to learn?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's amazing. That's super important.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it is, and everything it is. Learning is a lifelong progress. Progress,
Yeah.
and I said it. I said it on one of my posts that I made on Instagram. It was like I was always told that once you stop learning, it's time for you to just go on, head home, because
Exactly.
you should always be learning. You should always be learning. Um, it is important when teaching young children. Absolutely. And education itself is evolving. Look where we are now, right?
Yeah.
Back then, no, they didn't have that. They just talked about the red apple and they went on home and we went home. Mama, what is an apple?
Yeah.
Because they didn't show the picture. So, but
Exactly.
now we take it a step further. We have those projects. We do different things with them for them to feel and taste everything with an apple. As we get ready, to close, my my final question for you is I'm sorry, if you were, if there was one thing that you could change about the education field as a whole, what would it be?
question is amazing. Opportunities. Um, I would say that education sometimes stops opportunities, and I would speak from certain groups, especially with our low income students too as well. Um, Giving them the experience,
Mm-hmm.
giving them the tools that is needed for them to grasp the material, master the material too as well. Um, I think that we limit our children based upon what they're capable of doing. We're putting our kids in a box. That's the reason why I don't like the comments like, a boy should be doing this or a girl should be doing this, giving them the opportunity to express themselves. Um, so if I can change anything about education, it's just the opportunity for them to grow into themselves and not tell them exactly who they are. At that point, do they exactly know who they are, or are they going to grow into who they are? But as teachers, as parents, we're telling them, hey, this is who you are. A boy's supposed to take out the trash. You got a girl like, I'm going to take out the trash too as well, Or a boy cannot play with Barbie dolls. And I'm pretty sure that's a whole other topic too as well. But it's those opportunities that is totally missed from my kids. So if I can change anything, it will just be giving more experience, giving more exposure to as well, and giving them the opportunities to just grow into themselves.
Okay, so this is a question from Mr. Milton. He said, "Can we back up to not teaching children to say I'm sorry? Although children, parentheses, and adults alike may have meant to do what was done. What are your thoughts about those intentions having unintended devastating results, which the child or adults may indeed be sorrowful?" So basically, the question is.
So one more time.
So basically, the sum of the question is what, because ultimately we're preparing them to be adults, right? So what about when they grow
Yes.
up and they are sorrowful for what they did, but we've taught them not to say I'm sorry, right? Um,
Okay.
how
Well,
I,
I would say it's not teaching them not to say sorry, but it's allowing them the opportunity or allowing them to um, understand exactly what they're sorry for. So, all right, cool. Let me just break it down. Again, students, especially that age, don't really know exactly what they're sorry for. If we see something, like say for instance, a child hit another child, it's basically grabbing them or telling them to come here, and saying like, hey, that was not nice at all. Is it a better way that you can ask for that ball back? Yeah, there is a better way. What could have you done? I could have asked for it, or I could have waited my turn. Great, perfect. What do you think you should do to make sure that she or he feels better about you hitting them? Oh, I should go and say I'm sorry, or I should go and say this. They're owning their situation. They and then they're going to apologize for whatever. So it's not telling them not to apologize, but it's a teachable moment. Number one, I just taught you not to hit. Number two, I just taught you how to ask for whatever you want. Number three, you have corrected the behavior too as well. So I'm not just telling you go say sorry for hitting her, you know. So it's basically focusing on the behavior and why they are sorry for the behavior, then to tell the child to hey say you're sorry for hitting such and such.
I agree with you, and I also understand where he is coming from. I want to say this to piggyback off what you said. In most situations, even as adults, we we aren't sorry for what we did. We
Yeah,
did it because we wanted to do it.
it's a learned
It's a
behavior.
yeah.
I'm sorry, it's a learned behavior.
Right, right,
It's quick. Like oh I'm sorry, oh I'm sorry.
right,
And get back to do it again.
right. So in most cases we apologize because we saw how it either affected someone, how it
Yeah.
affected us, or just the outcome overall. So when we say we don't teach them to say I'm sorry, I agree with Miss Hodge. It's a coachable moment.
Yes.
It's okay, you're sorry, but why are you sorry? And if you
Yes.
ask a child that, they can't tell you that. They can't tell you why I'm sorry. They just know that they're supposed to say it. So we
Yeah.
have to teach them you're sorry because this
Yeah.
hurt. Look, this hurt Johnny. This hurt Amber. She did not like that when you did
Yeah.
that. What if it's just like a baby?
Yeah.
When a baby is born, they have the tendency to bite. That baby
Yes.
does not know that that is inflicting pain on you. So most parents in the old school days would nibble on them back, and that taught the child what not to
That's
bite.
a part. Yes.
It's just that most people aren't sorry for what they did. They're only sorry for what they did, what it caused, what it would cause.
Yeah.
So then that's when second nature come in. And they say I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then again, the behavior is still not corrected. So
Right.
like I forgot who you said the name. It's a coachable moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hey, what you just did was not right. She probably feels this way, or she probably feels that way right there. What
Mm-hmm.
can you do to correct the behavior? Again, it's all about correcting behavior, and we
Mm-hmm.
have to be careful with the "I'm sorry" word because again, our kids are developing their mind. So if they're going around, I'm sorry. It sounds like they're a sorry person or they're a sorry individual and not the all right, I apologize for what I did, or I hit you and it made you feel this way right here. I won't do it again. So again, it's all about language. It's all about the verbiage, and coaching them exactly what they do in those situations. So by the time they get to adulthood, I'm not only saying I'm sorry or I apologize. I'm correcting my behavior with it too as well.
Mm-hmm. And then Ms. Jones says, I think doing the opposite order is also effective. Apology, then the lesson.
Yes.
And that's true also. They can apologize, but always use that as a coachable moment.
Yes.
If you're going to apologize, at least know why you're apologizing, because
Yeah.
that makes the apology more genuine. I can now accept
Exactly.
that you're sorry for it and you acknowledged what you did. Like right,
Exactly.
that's a coachable moment. That goes for putting a child in time or taking away something from them and no explanation of why. Absolutely, with no explanation of why. That's even when it goes to chastising a child.
Exactly.
Explain to
Exactly.
it. Let me tell you something. I've gotten, as we call it, beatings from both my mom and
Oh yeah.
my dad.
Yes.
The worst beating ever was from my dad. Let me tell you why. Not because of the pain, but because before he would chastise me, he sat down and we had this long conversation. And I just thought that I had completely dodged the beating. And then after that, it was like, okay, let's go ahead and get this over with.
Yeah.
But those were effective. Like I didn't want you to call my mom, but I really didn't want you to call my daddy because I did not want to sit down and have those conversations with him and knew that I still was going to get, the
Yeah.
beating afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So absolutely use everything as a coachable moment,
Exactly.
and I
And
think
you have to be careful with the timeouts. Like, and I think nowadays they don't call it
we can
timeout
call
too
it
as
time
well.
away
But
or
just
redirection.
having a moment to yourself, a reflection. I know when I was teaching kindergarten, I call it a reflection time. Let's reflect together. Meet them eye level too as well to have that moment with them. And we spent a minute or two reflecting on exactly why that behavior needs to be corrected. So it's not me just again the old school way by sending them the timeout and I'm going back in the next 2 days, I'm doing it again or I'm hitting again. It's that coachable moment that needs to have that human connection um, that develops their social skills, their emotional skills too as well.
Yeah, we have a 10 seconds remaining. I thank you so much for joining. And I thank you so much for coming in and being so open with everything. Look forward to speaking with you later. Um, yes, absolutely. So I agree with everyone. Children children are just many adults, everyone, and we're just trying to make sure that we are preparing them holistically, no matter what that may be, to make sure that we are giving them the right equipment that they need to build and grow, right? And when I have these lives, I really encourage everyone to chime in, voice your opinion. Thank you all for coming back in. I know I've been gone for 2 weeks. For chime in, come back in, and most importantly, when it comes down to children and parenting, make sure that we are going above and beyond for our children. Make sure that we are giving them the extra tools that they need to for school. Right? It is not always. I was talking with my mom, and I told, and we said this, and we agreed on this, that the teacher gives you what you should know, right? Based on standards and so forth and so on, what he or she may have been taught book wise, right? A parent gives you what you need to know, and what you need to know can help you both in the educational world and the outside world. We always want to prepare children for every aspect of life. And that's just the reality of it. Well, I thank Mr. Odell for coming in. Great conversation. Great advice. I love you all. Have a great night. See you next Monday at 7 o'clock. Thank you.